Oh, man, you don't know nothing about DeSoto. You don't even know where I'm at right now. You know where I'm at right now?
Mississippi.
DeSoto County, Mississippi.
Ole Miss.
DeSoto County, Mississippi.
Are you really? There you go.
I'm in Hernando, DeSoto. I'm in Hernando, the city, in DeSoto County.
That was a Seinfeld reference that flew over your head, but that's good.
I don't watch Seinfeld.
I know.
I don't quote it. Don't watch it. Don't quote it. Can't wait for Curb, though. Final season starts Sunday.
Curb on Sunday. Cannot wait. I drop a Seinfeld reference on you about once every 6 shows. I just very, very rarely mention that I'm actually doing it. That I figured I'd give you a little heads up there. Jerry and George at the diner, and Jerry likes Magellan, and then he asked George, "Who do you like?" He's like, "I like DeSoto."
Okay, no. But I hope people don't think I was trying to quote Seinfeld, because I wasn't. I had no idea. I just really like Ferdinand Magellan. I enjoy his work.
You circled back to Magellan, and I figured I had to invoke it there. Let's talk Kentucky.
Okay.
So the defense has been an issue, and then I thought, you know what? All right, once and for all, let's see where this stands up. So I reached out to a guy, perhaps you've heard of him, Kenneth Pomeroy. And I said,
I know.
I was like, listen, I can do the research here, but if you have a way of quickly pulling it up and saving me, 2 hours, I'll be forever grateful to you. And he's like, I got you, Norlander, no problem whatsoever. Because the key here is not to look at KenPom numbers once tournament play has started. No. That is infecting the pool.
I know, but it's so much easier to do.
No, but if you make the Final Four, you have inflated your numbers.
I know, but you know how much time you save by doing it that way.
Well, this is the accurate way of doing it.
I know it's the right way, but it's so much harder.
That's why that's what the court report's there for. People ask,
that's what I tell people when they ask me.
The right way. Okay.
That's what I tell people when they ask me. Sometimes people on the streets, they'll just be like, "GP, what's the court report for?" And I'll say, it is to shine a light on things you might otherwise not know, and to do things the hard way, but the right way.
The right. Well, this wasn't the hard way. Ken Pomeroy did the research for me. The right way.
Okay, good.
So thank you to Ken. He is credited in the piece. Appreciate you, bud, so much for that. So you want to do this the right way. You look at where teams are ranked after Selection Sunday before a tournament game has been played. And so KenPom's data now goes back to the 1996-1997 season. And the highest, or I should say the lowest ranked team in defensive efficiency since then to win a national title. So where you were ranked heading into the tournament was Baylor in 2020-21, and that was even the COVID bubble year. Only a few teams have been.
Didn't it feel like they were awesome by the end?
Well, it was because they had maybe the best defensive player in the country. Yes, right. For sure. In fact, I'll tell you right now, but they did jump it. So they were 44th. Baylor was going into the 21 tournament in defensive efficiency. They had a really good offense. They finished 22nd, so they jumped up and halved their standing by the end. Again, 6 wins. It's going to make you look better than you were heading into the tournament. But for the most part, you got to be a top 30 defense. The teams that have done it, that have not been a top 30 defense, Baylor in 21, Duke in 2015, but it had the 6th ranked offense. Carolina, this one was stunning to me. 09 Carolina was 37th in defense, but it was 3rd in offense. Even like your UConn's in 11 and 14, like UConn in 14 was a good defensive team. It wasn't that good on offense. In 11, it was 27th on defense, but it was 15 on offense. And then Syracuse, a 3 seed in 03, was 31st. Those are the only teams. For the most part, you got to be top 25. Obviously,
you got to have Carmelo or somebody like that.
Right, exactly. And so many of these teams were ranked top 10 in defensive efficiency. And if you weren't, you had a pretty good offense. Now, Kentucky does have a good offense. So the point of leading the court report with this was just that it's not that Kentucky can't win a national title. History suggests that it will not if it doesn't drastically change its defense. Now, Kentucky's going to host Florida here on Wednesday night, so this leads into Kentucky bringing the Gators in, and hopefully they can have another good defensive effort because they're actually now, because, the way that Pomeroy's algorithm works as it should, Kentucky's 75th right now. It was 70th on Tuesday, but because of whatever happened else around the world, they are now 75th in defensive efficiency. Now, Kentucky was 96th before the Arkansas game, but the defense was its 2nd best defensive performance of the season. They won 63-57 on the road, held Arkansas to 57 points. It jumped them, but they need to put together streaks of games where they're holding teams under a point per possession. They need to do that. Otherwise, they're not going to win 6. And, if they don't win the national title, it's not the worst thing in the world, but we see this team that's deep, so talented, so much fun, so much potential. We think, well, yeah, man, that's a national title contender. I'm just telling you right now, it's not. It does not have the defense. It's not close to suggest it can win a national title. But as I put at the end of it, If you simply would just be like, if you're a Kentucky fan, you're like, you know what, I want to just get us back to a Final Four. It's been 9 years. Then you've got hope, because many teams, and not, a handful, not many, have reached the Final Four. And as GP and I say often on the show, win in 4, win in 6. That's a huge, huge gap in the tournament. You can win 4 with a mediocre defense. The 5 worst to do it all had worse defenses than Kentucky has right now. Marquette in 03, Dwayne Wade, Tom Crean, they were 80th going into the tournament in defensive efficiency. 21 UCLA, another COVID year, they were 86th when they went from first 4 to Final Four. 2000 Carolina, which was an 8 seed, was 100th in defensive efficiency the day after Selection Sunday. VCU, 126, really has the worst statistical profile of any team to make a Final Four. And then last year's Miami team, you down, 132nd in defensive efficiency. Last year's Miami team was the worst defensive team in the Ken Pom era since 97 to make a Final Four. So Kentucky can get there. Kentucky can get to Arizona with the defense it has currently, but it will not win 6 games if it doesn't significantly upgrade itself on that end of the floor.
Because the problem, and I don't remember who, somebody said this one time, and it just sort of, it's the simplest way to illustrate the point you're making. Like, you can get to a Final Four with a subpar defense or a subpar offense or a subpar team. But the reason we don't see those Cinderella Final Four teams or those unusual Final Four teams go on and win the national championship almost ever is because once you get there, you still got to win 2 games against teams that are better than you. And that's very, very difficult to do. Like, you get there and you're like, we're here. All right. Can you win 2 more games you're not supposed to win against 2 of the best teams in the country? Because that's what you have to do now. And with that kind of defense, well, then that's where it usually catches up with you.
And what do those 5 teams I just mentioned have in common? The ones with the subpar defenses that nonetheless made the Final Four: 03 Marquette, 21 UCLA, 2000 Carolina, 2011 VCU, 2023 Miami. What do they all have in common? None of them won once they got to the Final Four. They only won 4 games.
They often get blown out.
Yeah, and they get run. So Kentucky might well do it. I don't want to say it can't, but I think it is asking a lot for a team that is just pedestrian on defense to rally in the second half of the season. And I mean, if you want the target, top 45. Baylor was 44, and it played in a weird circumstance in a bubble, and it won. Right. Other than that, it's been a few teams that are hovering around 40. But you want to, maybe because of the talent, coaches won it there before. Can you get in that top 45 conversation? If not, it just won't happen. I think there is correlation there. I really do. Like, at a certain point, like, you need to be able to prove that you can play high level defense, and Kentucky's a ton of fun. But we just got to see it. It did it against Arkansas on the road. Now it hosts Florida. Let's see. Can they put back-to-back together, games of really, really good defense? That's going to be the key for UK once we get to March.
I do think that Baylor team is interesting because I think the circumstances matter. They weren't good defensively, but they were in a bubble. That was unusual. Yep. I don't know that it mattered, but it's a variable that is different.
Absolutely.
Okay. Yeah. They had maybe the greatest perimeter defender in the country. All right. So even though they weren't great defensively, they had a great defensive player. And in the title game, they played somebody that they athletically overwhelmed.
Yes. Correct. Yeah.
And so I think all of that stuff allowed them to win a national championship with a defense that wasn't great throughout the season. Because they had a great defensive player. They were in the bubble, which might have changed the dynamics of the thing. And their opponent in the title game was an opponent they were able to just athletically overwhelm. And that was obvious within the first few minutes of that game.